Welcome to the CMO Spotlight. And today I'm here with Efrat Ravid, who is the Chief Marketing Officer for an amazing company that we're going to hear a little bit more about called Quantum Metric. But she also serves as a board member and advisor for several startups. So welcome, Efrat.
Thank you so much, Joe, and thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. So I wonder if we could just begin by your telling us a little bit more about Quantum Metric. What is the company? What do you all do?
Absolutely. So, Joe, have you ever tried to change a flight, deposit a check, buy in any retailer website, and things didn't work for you as you wanted?
Yes.
What did you do?
Maybe contacted customer service was the first step.
So, how long did
or abandoned, even worse, abandoned.
Yeah. So this is what most people do, or call the call center, which is very expensive for the company, or just abandoned, which is even more expensive for the company because they lost a customer. And Quantum Metric, this is what we do. We help companies to understand where customers are struggling with without interfering with the customer, show them for every issue that the customer have, how many other customers actually have the same issues, and more importantly, how much it actually costs the business, and when they want to fix it, how to reproduce it to the dot. So the engineering cannot go back to us, the marketeer, and say, I'm sorry, it works in my machine. Because they get all the information and they can get the empathy to the customer. It's almost like sitting behind their back and see exactly what the customer clicked.
When you bring your car to be fixed to the shop and then the mechanic says, I can't duplicate it, that's very frustrating. So I can understand how valuable that could be.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our customers, Alaska Airlines, said that after using Quantum Metric, they stopped closing bugs. And when we heard it first time, I said, what do you mean you cannot close bugs? And they said, we cannot close bugs because we couldn't reproduce them. Every bug was reported we could reproduce, which is unbelievable.
Absolutely. So I'm curious about your role as Chief Marketing Officer. If you could tell us a little bit about what you do for Quantum Metric and maybe even a little about your team.
Absolutely. So I'm the head of marketing, which is my favorite position. And my team responsible for the messaging, the brand, the growth, meaning to bring the pipeline to the company. Product marketing is part of the team, so it's about the win-loss and really understand where the customers, how they acquire, buy, and so on. Understand our industries, where industries we work with. So, for example, what I love about Quantum Metric is that we can help from banks, so the biggest banks in the world are our customers, to retailers, so the biggest retailers in the world are our customers, to airlines and hospitality, so most of the airlines is our customers, and so on. So my team really understand each industry, help with to the sales team with the language that we need to use, with the pain each industry has, and with the messages, like which messages stick.
Great. So, and how big, just generally, is Quantum Metric as a company? You know, what's the size and scale? How many employees or something like that, or whatever you can share?
Yeah, Joe, it's a big milestone for us. So you asked me exactly what I want to answer. So thank you. We just got $100 million ARR. When I started 4.5 years ago, we were about 10 or 12 million.
Wow.
So 4.5 years, like 400 million ARR. It's like, this is a big milestone for us. And we are 400 people, and we are keep going.
Yeah. Well, I think, and technically the company is based in Colorado, but I think the team is pretty distributed as well.
Yeah, so before COVID, I think we were the first companies to understand it. And by the way, this is one of the things I love about Quantum, is that we hire talent wherever they are. Yeah. And we always been distributed, and we always build culture around passion, persistence, and integrity, and not around we all need to be in the office and work 8 hours.
That's great. So I'm curious about your path. And if somebody didn't detect from the accent, I believe you're originally from Israel. And,
Yes.
and you went to college in Israel, but then you got your MBA at Northwestern after that. And then, so tell us about your career path that led you to quantum metric.
Absolutely. So I'm actually a software engineer. As you said, um, I study in Israel, and my family are immigrants from Germany, and my dad gave me all the options I can study as long as it's engineering to be a doctor or a lawyer. And it's true. And like I
You
couldn't
got
even,
three or four choices, right?
yes, three choices, you can choose one of the, and
Right.
I thought engineering sounds good. And also when I served the army, it was a lot about the telecommunication and cybersecurity and so on. So I said, okay, engineering sounds super fascinating. And I started my career actually in Asia Pacific. I was application engineer and then solution engineer and head of the entire overtime channel, technical channel in Asia Pacific. So I was like 2 weeks in Israel, 2 weeks somewhere in inland China, inland Korea. It was really amazing experience for a young woman, very technical, couldn't be more technical. I don't know how I lost this part of my life, the technical part, and doing implementation in the more in the mechanical engineering world. The first 15 years of my career, I worked in the mechanical engineering world, building computer-aided design and so on. So it was very technical position. Few years later, my husband and I wanted to move to the US, and it was a good opportunity for my company. As I said, in Asia Pacific, it worked really well, but we kind of lost the trust of the technical team in the US. Do you mind to move to the US? And it works very well for us. I moved to Boston. I work for a company in SolidWorks, which is part of the System, French company, and the biggest actually software company in Europe. I spent 10 years and was a product manager, and one of my products created 400,000 leads a year.
Wow.
And the CEO came to me, who was one of the most amazing mentors I have in my career, John McElhenney, and he said to me, you created this problem, you should solve it. What do we do with all these leads? How we handle it? Like we really got almost like the names of every mechanical engineer, right? I mean, 400,000 leads back then. So we start working on lead nurturing and with the SDR team and all the things that marketers do. And this is how I learned marketing. And every time I got another position in marketing, it started from growth because then we needed the lead nurturing. And the last thing I got was events, because I was really afraid of events. I said, the logistics, the people, and this company created events with like 3,000 people, user event, huge budget. I really was afraid of it. And that's the last thing I got before I handled the entire marketing team.
Wow. Well, that's quite a path. And I would assume that those engineering skills, the software engineering skills, come in handy as a CMO with dealing with, a lot of analytical sides to your work, and your analytical brain probably processes that pretty well.
Yeah, I think engineering in general is very helpful for many reasons. First is that when you sit with engineers, like in our engineering team, they know that I can speak their language. But also with our customers. Our customers are very technical. We work with chief digital officer, and many of them are CIOs, CTOs. Many of them are very, very technical, and speaking the same language, understand their needs and their pain is very helpful.
That's great. So I'm curious if there's a piece of advice that maybe you wish you'd gotten early in your career, or advice that you would give somebody that's fairly new in their marketing journey.
So a piece I would love to get, if I was younger right now, I would say, take it a little easier. I was running in I'm very feminist, and I was like, I will have kids, I will have delay in my career. So I think the first 10 years of my career, I just worked. I didn't have my life. I was traveling like crazy and so on. And I think really I didn't live. So I think I would give myself a career. I mean, if it's 10 or 12 years and you achieve the same amount of things, it's okay. No one is running after you. I think
Right.
that's what I'm trying to give my kids, but none of them are listening to me, so I don't know. um, and the advice I love to give marketeers, from everything I did, the solution engineer position, I think prepared me the most for being a marketeer, right? I
Yeah.
think so. And the reason for that was sitting with a customer and understanding their pain. I think
Mm,
solution engineer really sit with customer and say, and understand their processes, the agenda of each person in the company, or the people that needs to buy, right? Or make any decision, or the influencer. And understand really how to change their life, and when they are doing really good jobs, they understand the before and after, like before they have the product and after. And because I spent so much time doing that in Asia Pacific and in the US, and after that in EMEA, and also the different culture, I felt it helped me being a better marketeer. So spend the time with customer, not
mm.
reading, not only listening to gongs, but really sit with customer, understand their pain to the deepest level. That's the
That's
advice
great.
for any marketer.
I love that. I also love you used a little phrase in the middle of your advice was nobody's chasing you. I mean, when you're grinding earlier in your career, you may have gotten to the same place without, running the whole time.
Sure.
Um, so I believe that everybody has a superpower, and so I'm curious what you feel your superpower is.
So I was thinking a lot about superpowers in the other day when I went with my daughter to give a speech to some women in New York, and I wanted to share with her how she can grow, right? How she can be a strong woman, a strong leader, and what helped me in my career, or early in my career. And I think for me, I'm really not afraid from the word no. And even when I hear the word no, I just hear not right now. Please convince me. I think it
That's
started
great.
with my mom, that every time I asked her, she was like, the default answer was no. And I just got used from day zero to convince my mom to do what I wanted. And I'm really not afraid from the word no. So every opportunity, I worked really hard until I got it. It wasn't never given to me. And if I get the no the first time, I probably the second or the third, I will get the yes. So I think that's my superpower.
I love that. I'm curious where you find inspiration for your marketing team.
My inspiration I think about quantum metric all the time. When I sleep, when I take a shower, when I swim, when I run, when I just walk. So I think the inspiration comes from everything I look, every piece of newspaper or I read, I said, oh, this could work really well. And also, of course, from talking to customers. It's one of the things I love the most in my position is that I have the opportunity to work with unbelievable customers. I just feel every time I talk to them, I learn more. And talking to our customers open the world to me, and even listen to not only to the success and how they work really well with quantum metric, but also where they struggle, how they struggle with their team, their leadership tips. Well, that's give us a lot of inspiration.
Well, and you can never be wrong if that's the basis for the inspiration, right? Your customer, that's a good place to begin, regardless, because it's never wrong.
That's true.
Yeah. So I'm curious if there's some specific values that you either want to demonstrate to your team as a leader, or maybe these are values that you would demand for somebody to be a part of your team.
So as a company, we have three things that really bring us to be who we are, which we call passion, persistence, and integrity. This is how we hire. This is how we give feedback. This is how we wake up in the morning and have a T-shirt with passion, persistence, and integrity. Passion means to us really come with excitement, right? Really care. Persistent is no is it's not right now.
Right.
If it's not if you cannot get into the door, go from the window and so on, and really never give up. And integrity sounds obvious, but sometimes it's not, right? Sometimes you want to promise a customer something you don't have, and we in our values don't do that. Sometimes you want to push the limits, especially me in marketing. I want to push the limits, and our general counsel is like, which we are actually really good friends, tell me, oh, fuck, I don't think it's a good idea. So the integrity is really super important. It's not, sometimes, you really would like, oh, is it gray? And just don't do the gray. So the passion, persistent integrity is really the values that we think about, we demonstrate, we work hard, and we really lead the team and ask them to lead their teams with that values.
And it sounds to me like those are very aligned with your personal core values as well.
Yes, this is why I enjoy what I do so much, because when the values aligned, it's much more easier, right? It's like, yeah.
So here at Setup, we help marketers thrive by bringing them together with the best people and resources. And that often means that we connect brands and marketing agencies together. And so we're not on the client side. We don't live in a brand. We're not on the agency side either. We live in that space in between. And so we have a pretty good perspective on the relationship between brands and agencies. And so I'm curious, either at Quantum Metric or even in a previous life, just generally, how do you work with marketing agencies?
So since I'm a huge believer of hiring talent wherever they are, I have agencies that I work for years and I keep working. One of them is an agency in Norwegian that I really think that I'm working with them for 20 years in 4 different companies.
Wow.
And they are really creative and a lot of amazing campaigns they came up with. In Quantum Metric, we have a SEO, SEM agency, which is super important, especially now with Gen AI, and that Google is going to change the entire to zero click base, and we all need to learn really fast how to adjust. So I think the agency working closer with Google and learning is super important. Also, of course, we need to learn it internally as well because our content need to align and so on, but it's both. The win-loss analysis, sometimes I feel comes better from agencies than from internal because they feel more comfortable to talk to someone, especially the losses. I know we hate to lose, but sometimes it happens, and super important to call the customer and understand why they make this choice. And we are so emotional. Seriously, this company is the most emotional company I've ever worked with, which is why I love. We deeply care. Like, I think the customer will say something bad, we will cry with tears, and probably it's not the right person to call about losses. So that's a good help for agencies as well. And when we did our branding, we also have a really great agency in Utah that was super helpful.
Great. Are there I've found that most marketers, there are certain disciplines of marketing that they feel are important for them to keep in-house. And then there's certain other disciplines of marketing where they feel it's better to get external perspective, either capacity help, more arms and legs, or capability help, where there's something that they just do that maybe is harder to keep in-house. Are there certain disciplines that you feel you mostly want to keep in-house versus things you really want to get external perspective?
Yes, one of my mentors in my career, Rainer Gavlik, said to me, you can outsource everything except of your brain and your soul. And I actually do it for everything. Like, even for my personal life, I would outsource everything except of sitting with my kids and actually talking to them, right? Or reading with them. I prefer to read with them and then do any other things that is logistics. So everything that is logistics, I will definitely prefer to outsource, but I would never outsource product marketing. I would never outsource anything that relationship with our customers. I would never outsource the messaging. I can have a third party help us with the research. I have third party help us with that, but really making the messaging click and have I want my team to talk to customer. I don't want to outsource that, right? So sometimes if it's win-loss, I think it makes sense and we read it. But if it's really talking to the customers, I definitely want that. I will give you another example. We do our user events. And every year, customers from really huge companies like Home Depot and big banks that I cannot mention, and big airlines and retailers, that they're going to so many events, and I'm talking about executives there, come to us and say it was the best event ever. And I really think it's because the hospitality that we give is like, we can have somebody help them with a registration, right? We can have somebody help them with any logistics during the events, but we make sure that our team actually do it. So the entire hospitality, this one I'm saying, I don't outsource the relationship with the customer. I want every touch with the customer to be with our team and not like an agent. So everything that the relationship with our customers is super important to me, that it will be personal touch.
Is there something else that you feel you always would benefit, or not always, maybe is a strong word, but usually would benefit from a completely external perspective, where you just don't want that you feel getting ideas from outside is more valuable than within?
Absolutely. So when we run a new campaign, I think we are so in love with our messaging and hearing ourselves. So absolutely, getting perspective from somebody else is super important. When we did the rebranding again, I wanted somebody else's perspective. But the way I work with the agencies is I want third-party opinion and research and so on, but I want my team to do as well. So I always say it's integrated teams. Think we need to treat them not as our third party, but they are part of our team. That we are working. So even the research, if we have 20 customers to interview, I would love them to do 10 and we to do 10. Even if they will say, this is a template, this would work for us, but really to work well together so we don't outsource this important, is like everything they will come back with.
So I'm curious if there is, we as marketers always have to work with non-marketing functions within our organizations. Yeah. And often everybody thinks they're a marketer. They all have opinions. They all are a focus group of one sometimes. Yeah. So I'm curious, how do you demonstrate the value of marketing to the non-marketing functions within the organization?
So first I have to share with you that my biggest mistake when I moved to marketing from engineering or for sales engineering, was just running really fast. Like I was like, we have an idea, we have a campaign, we want to do a new website, and we just did it. And I didn't bring the entire organization with me. And the alignment between the teams. And because I was really like, I have to run, right? I don't have time to share it with every executive in the company. I just need to do it. I mean, and it was a big mistake. So today, I make so many mistakes early in my career that I'm trying to make new ones right now. So the first thing we do is alignment. So the alignment with the messaging, the alignment with the campaign, it's a we all problem, and it's not only marketing. So that's the first thing that I do. I bring them with me, even from the whiteboarding, right? Even from the ideation until the execution. And I always have one person from a group to make sure that they can bring it back. The second thing is how I measure marketing. I measure marketing with pipeline, how much pipeline we actually generate to the organization, how many people we talk with, right? New people compared to existing one. And even with existing customers, like how many times we help them to upsell, to cross-sell, just engagement with our customers. That's more for the customers and the success and account management. So very aligned with the sales and customer success teams.
Great. So I'm curious if there's a program either at Quantometric or even a previous life that taught you something super important, because either it was a huge failure and you want to learn from that experience, or it was a huge success that maybe you could emulate again in the future.
Absolutely. So I think something I keep learning, and sometimes it's easy for me to forget, and every time I learn it again, I relearn it, is when we are creative and try something completely new and surprise ourselves and the world, we are more likely to be successful. And when we are doing something the second year and the third year, like tradition, we expect an ROI, but the ROI will be very flat. And I will give you an example. So we make a lot of events. We are working with enterprises, and there's nothing like meeting the CDOs and the CMOs in one room and actually talk to them. So many years we do the US Open. It's super successful. We bring the people. You see other suites there with other companies.
Wait, golf tournament or tennis?
Sorry, the tennis US Open.
Okay, fair.
And you see other companies there and successful, everyone having time, and we get return of investment as it should be. But one time our head of experience said, how about Taylor Swift? And not only will do the Taylor Swift suite, but actually we let them bring their kids because they would love it. That was the best events we have ever made, and great few of them, because no one else is doing it. Super exciting, something the customer deeply care. We work also with a lot of women leaders, and they told me, if I get another invitation to a sport event, I'm going to kill somebody.
Right.
And yeah, and I had a lot of women, not that men are not love Taylor Swift and want to have their kids, but somehow in this event, we got much more women leaders, and it was really fun, and they enjoyed it.
Well, I do remember the Taylor Swift Quantum Metric Eras tour. I'm just kidding. The thing is, it's a different kind of thing. You don't have to own the entire event. All you have to do is create a really fantastic experience for your customers and your team to be able to, spend time together. And that's a great lesson.
And it's also with the campaigns we run. We ran an Empathy by Design campaign with the agency in Utah that was so creative that people just couldn't stop and look at it. And how I know it's super creative is because before I click the launch button or sign the agreement, I'm really scared. I'm scared. I'm afraid from the CFO to tell me that was such a really you're going to spend money. Every time I get this question, really you're going to spend money on it? I know it's going to be a success.
Well, right. And to your point, bland creative hardly ever lands. Yeah. And so if it's, if you take some risks, there's a much higher chance that you're going to have something that people actually care about. Whereas if it's bland, it's never going to resonate with people.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. All right. So I want to wrap things up with some fun questions, just for fun, kind of quick questions. The first is there a movie or a book or a band or a sports team or a quote that really inspires you? And what is it about that thing that inspires you the most?
So I will take the quote.
Okay.
One of the quotes I really love is that people plan and God laughs. And I think there are a few people that kind of claim to say this quote.
Right.
But the reason I really love that is that I'm all about planning. And if not plan A, plan B, and plan C. But then we all know stuff happened, right?
Yeah, right.
COVID is a great example, right?
Right.
Then I had a huge event in Vegas, and then COVID started, and I need to do re-engineering how I get all my money back, and how we are going to stay for 3 years in a room with the same people, and it keep happening. Like there is a war right now that I didn't plan for, and life stops in that region, and we need to keep adjusting. And it really reminds me that the creativity, the looking forward, really the passion that needs to bring us on, even if it's difficult or if it's change our plans, just to make us laugh. So that's the quote I really like.
I love that. I'm curious, outside of your family, because that would be too easy, if there's something that gives you joy outside of work. Do you have any hobbies or passions that you love?
Yeah, I'm a little addicted to sports. So this morning, I don't know if you can see here, I still have my marks for my goggles. So I like long distance swimming in the ocean. I really enjoy that. I just did the 5K race in the ocean, which I also like long distance running. So everything that is really long endurance, I enjoy it.
And you must not be afraid of sharks or something like that.
I mean, of course, when I get to the ocean, and actually 2 years ago, somebody was bitten. One of our swimmates were bitten there in Del Mar. Every time I go there, I say, I hope they read the signs that they cannot go here. So the sharks, like I always laughed at, because there are sharks, the white sharks are there. We really hope they are not going to where we swim.
They mostly don't care about you.
Exactly. I'm not
Yeah.
thirsty.
So I'm curious if there's a brand that you've never worked on that you really admire, and what is it about that brand that you admire most?
So there are a lot of brands I love. And I'll give you an example of one of our customers, which is Lululemon. And I love sports, so of course I love Lululemon.
Right.
Right? I think it's the only store that every time I get into the store, I said, I have to have something. Like I really cannot resist. But what I love about Lululemon is that it's the experience every part of the buying. If it's online, if it's offline, if it's a customer service, if it's a fabric, it's like you can see that the experience of the brand is something that is really managed. It's not by luck, right? Every part of the store, every part of the checking out, every part of the trying out clothes is managed. Even like standing up in line, like for buying, it's like you have somebody who's almost like walking there and entertain you, so you won't waste your time. So it's really, really amazing experience, and I love it.
I love that. All right. So one last question is, is there a fictional story or time or place that you would like to live in if you had a chance to live somewhere totally different than, 2023 in the United States?
Which is actually not bad to live here in the US.
No.
But I'm very connected to my grandmother, who is 100 years old. She just turned 100 years old. And
Wow.
we're actually very alike, especially with our not organized hair and and strong personality, and love to swim. But she is one of the women that were in 48 when Israel were established, and she's one of the founders of Israel, and the story of how they built Israel from scratch as a young woman with almost no resource is like, I wish I was there. I love the
That's
building.
cool.
So, and the stories is just amazing, like what they tried, how they fought, how they create things from nothing. It's just amazing.
I love that. It would be a magical time and place. I mean, obviously not easy, but also interesting and fascinating, and to feel like you're really a part of something so important and new, and helping, grow it from scratch. That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know anything that make you real joy, that you don't really need to have suffer and pain. Like no pain, no gain. To me, it's reality. So
Yeah,
the fact that it was painful and suffer and so on, I think that would make this accomplishment even bigger.
100%. Well, Efrat Ravid is the Chief Marketing Officer for Quantum Metric, and also a board member and advisor to several startups. Efrat, thank you so much for this time. It was such a joy to have this conversation with you.
Same here. Thank you so much.